Hello, and welcome to the Muses Lab, your destination for all things spiritual, sensual, and pleasurable. Here, I explore the nuances of our human experience, connect with practitioners to support your glow up, and share my lessons and blessings as perspective to move you closer to alignment and self-empowerment. I invite you to join me on this adventure of discovery, and hope what you receive inspires you to become the muse of your life's journey. So without further ado, let's explore. Hello, and welcome to the Muses Lab podcast. It's your girl, Siobhan L, and this is actually going to be a space of exploration for me and for all of us, really, as I work through my thoughts on this. If you have read my Substack or are on my mailing list, which you should be on both, and you opened your emails, you have been on this journey with me exploring devotion, what it looks like to use devotion as a practice, as well as you take on devotion as an embodiment. And I'm doing that because I have challenges with discipline. It's not that I can't be disciplined. Just the whole concept of discipline feels rigid to me, but also feels resistant to who I am as a person. For me, the concept of discipline feels very rigid because there is this expectation that I need to follow a specific structure, certain rules, certain regimens. And if I am not consistent, or if I don't push myself in those moments where I may not be feeling it or my body is reacting a specific type of way, if I don't push past that and be disciplined enough to find a way to make one, then I feel inadequate. And I don't like how that makes me feel. I don't want to necessarily make this blanketed. However, some of you may resonate with the things that I'm saying. And if you do, then amazeballs. But if not, I totally get it. Or I'm having this challenge because, again, it's not working for me. It's not that it's not clicking. It's just not working for me. So because I do have goals and there are things that I want to accomplish, I had to start to find and navigate a different way to be able to show up in this space. A lot of other spiritual girlies, people in the spiritual community who have some common sense have been talking about devotion, revisiting devotion, what that looks like to be devoted to yourself. Now, when we think about devotion, we think about it in a space of us having devotion to a deity or us having devotion to someone we love, friends, people we cherish, right? So being a devotee or being devoted to someone or something else. But we don't hear enough conversation about being devoted to ourselves, having devotion for ourselves, taking that same energy, which may mimic discipline, and applying it to ourselves as a devotee of ourselves. And I feel like that takes on a different energy. It takes on a different frequency, because if I say that I am a devotee to myself, then that's a different type of commitment. The commitment doesn't feel rigid, it feels more sacred. That's where I'm trying to get to. It feels more sacred. It feels more in depth. It feels more ritualistic. It feels more spiritual. It feels more sensual. It feels more sensory. Discipline. When I think of discipline, I think of my dad. Gunnery Sergeant Morris. I think of my dad. My father is a very disciplined man. And even as a veteran, retired from the military, the structure of discipline that he learned has translated across every aspect of his life. And he expects his children to have the same type of discipline. Spoiler alert, we don't. But he expects all his kids to have the same type of discipline. So when I think about that, I think about how regimented my father is. And as I'm talking this out, I find this very ironic, specifically as someone who needs regimen. As someone who needs a routine, I find it very ironic that the act of discipline is tough for me. It's difficult for me. It's challenging for me. And I've often felt like maybe I'm not serious enough about the things that I want to do, right? So when I think about discipline, I think about a lot of the content creators, influencers who we started alongside one another, and they have surpassed me in my eyes based on the structure and the standard of growth and scale for influencers and content creators. If we're using that as a metric, they have surpassed me. And it is because they're disciplined. And the quote you'll see on the interwebs a lot is that discipline beats talent any day. I don't think I have the word for it yet, but it makes me feel a specific way in my spirit, in my body. It makes me uncomfortable. It's not cringe, but it makes me uncomfortable. It incites feelings of inadequacy or feelings of not meeting the challenge, and it makes me take a step back and take a pause and question whether or not I should be doing the creative things that I'm doing. And I don't like that because it took me a very long time to pull myself out of a space of questioning what I do intuitively. And that quote, discipline beats talent any day, makes me question whether I should be moving in the creative direction that I'm moving in. That being said, I recognize that those who I have been in concert with doing specific type of creative work, whether it's pleasure, spiritual, coaching, what have you, I recognize that because they are disciplined, it has brought them opportunities and growth that has allowed them to make this work something they do full time and to live and eat off of this work, which is something that I've wanted to do. And I've wrestled with whether or not that is even my path. Around this time last year, actually, I did a TikTok on you see other people doing the things that you want to do, and you start feeling away because you go, well, why can't I do that? And part of it was like, well, who told you you couldn't? But the other part that I'm bringing up now in this moment is that what you're supposed to be doing? Like, yeah, it looks cool. It's a skill set you have. It's something that you can learn. But is that what you're supposed to be doing? And I recognize for myself that I have operated outside of the boundaries of alignment for a very long time. Like it's kind of aligned, is on the same potential frequency, but it's not like true alignment. And I feel like there are a lot of us who toe the line between true alignment and something that's like half-ass aligned. If this is resonating with you, maybe this is you. So when we speak about discipline and we try to create those routines and those regimens to be consistent and to be disciplined in things, I'm recognizing as I'm talking this out loud that oftentimes we try to apply discipline to things that really don't align with where we are going. And I'm saying this to say often we recognize that we have certain skill sets and certain interests, hobbies, things that we may want to try. And instead of seeing that as a form of play, we try to capitalize and corporatize those talents, gifts, experiences, things that come natural to us that maybe are supposed to be sacred to us. We try to put a price tag on it, and then we get upset because it's not unfolding the way we think it's supposed to unfold, and or the way we see it unfolding for other people. And I feel like that's important to note because, again, when we talk about discipline, we're utilizing the metric or the examples that we see of people around us who have this drive and this level of ambition and assertion and relentlessness that they use as fuel to allow whatever their dreams, desires, goals that they want to accomplish to actualize themselves in real time. So when that doesn't happen for us, based on creative things that we desire to do, we then go, well, I must not be disciplined enough. Cause that's the shit I was telling myself. Well, maybe I'm just not disciplined enough. Is it that you're not disciplined enough? Or again, is it just because that's not what you're supposed to be doing? And that energy of discipline is supposed to be directed to something else. So this is where I feel like discipline and devotion meet in the middle somehow. Because whether or not it's the thing that we are supposed to be doing or just the thing that we do, if we look at it from a space of devotion, defining it as the sacred practice of dedication to something that has special meaning to us, that has this depth of sacredness, something that holds high regard for us. So we devote ourselves to the thing that we hold in high regard. And because it has that air of divinity to it, that air of sacredness to it, how we treat it shifts. Because now the thing that we are devoted to becomes something that we desire to protect. See, when I'm disciplined on something, I'm not necessarily trying to protect it or preserve it. The discipline is just an actionable energy that's supposed to drive me to complete whatever the trajectory is for me to move forward. Discipline gives me the energy to be able to do that. So that's different from me taking my energy and utilizing it to protect and preserve this thing that I hold in high regard. So when I think about being devoted to myself and devoted to my craft, I'm seeing it from a different light. I'm seeing it as something that I need to grow and scale, and not me as the conduit to move something forward. I'm getting to these distinctions here. Discipline is the things that we do, the actionable steps that we utilize to take to get to our goal. While devotion, as I'm speaking it out loud, feels like the actions and the steps that we take to embody the thing that we do. I don't believe discipline leads to embodiment. I do believe discipline leads to a form of consistency that allows you to become a master at something, a practitioner at something. As someone who is a devotee to whether it's yourself or your craft, You could be already at a mastery level, and the devotion to yourself or to your craft is what's going to deepen your relationship to yourself or the craft. So it's less about this very rigid, straightforward, actionable steps that lead to a space of consistency. It's about peeling back the layers and understanding the nuances of it and allowing that to be the thing that leads you to consistency. So I'm seeing devotion as this everyday relationship to the thing you are devoted to and becoming in concert with it, becoming one with it. Discipline doesn't feel like a relationship. Discipline sometimes focuses on denial and control, whether ever present or lack thereof. And devotion feels like it's inviting deep levels of pleasure and engagement. It's more than just achieving goals, but rather savoring the journey with all of your senses and really attuning to the thing that you are devoted to, utilizing that relationship to understand what this energy and what this frequency and what this space communicates to you. Devotion feels like how Dr. Candice describes sexual seasonings, those nuances that make who you are and make what you do special. Makes it you, makes it a part of you. Devotion is this full bodied, active participant movement with the thing that incites you, with the thing that you want to grow and scale. It honors your body's wisdom and its natural rhythms rather than overriding them, right? I gave the example on how with discipline, my body may not be filling up to it, my mind may not be filling up to it, but I suppress what my body is informing me. And I then put that to the back and use the goal as my fuel force, my driver, and utilize that to move forward. I lean on the goal as opposed to leaning on how my body is interacting with the thing that I want to do. For those of us who have challenges with discipline, our alternate could be devotion because it offers a path of pleasure as opposed to pain. It attunes to the sensual awareness during whatever type of activities we are doing, creating deeper pathways that lead to more lasting change. I feel like discipline is easy for us to fall off from, but devotion, because it's a more embodied practice, it allows us to develop routines and rituals that further that deepening interaction of devotion. Mm. I'm really sitting with how that's feeling with me. There's a vigilance with discipline that often dulls our capacity for pleasure and spontaneity, while being in devotion awakens those senses. There is an emphasis on pleasure in a space of being a devotee to the thing that you do. There's joy. And some people find joy in discipline, but devotion offers a deeper level of joy. Not just the joy of accomplishment, not just the dopamine rush, but that true relationship with joy. I hope y'all still with me because I'm allowing it to unfold organically. A key element that I've learned that is a part of discipline is being motivated. Motivation can be a challenge because the expectation is that our goal is our motivation, which drives discipline, which drives consistency. But what if the motivation is just simply pleasure? What if that's the motivation? What if pleasure is the motivation that activates the reward centers in our brain that creates a more sustainable practice? What if it's pleasure and sensual engagement that reduces the cortisol and increases the oxytocin and enhances our performance in whatever we're doing? Because it's easy for the body to remember pleasurable experiences. We can recall those. We can recall how something made us feel good. We can recall how something sent chills and goosebumps around in our body. We can recall how something incites our heart, incites us in our soul. That's kind of where nostalgia lives in. So we can recall those things. So if pleasure is the motivation, now our path is connecting pleasure to the thing that we enjoy and like to do. So when we lean on how that enjoyment brings us pleasure, it then becomes easy for us to become devoted to that, devoted to always ensuring we feel good in some way, not in a way that denies earth and how it works, or humanity and how it works, right? Because we're not always going to feel good. There are some days where we're going to have to grieve, that we're going to be sad, that we're going to be upset, that we're going to be angry, that we're going to be disappointed. So it's not erasing those emotions, but it's creating a balance in how we are in pursuit of the things that make us feel good, that make us joyous, that are sensual, that are pleasurable, that are sensory. Our pursuit of that under the umbrella of devotion, it kind of supersedes all of those things that you have to filter through. It places that at the top. It doesn't deny that these other emotions exist, but it places the pursuit of pleasure through devotion at the top of the priority list. Could it be that devotion creates this positive feedback loop that increases over time? How often in the space of discipline are you in your mind regurgitating positive feedback? Is positive feedback on loop when you're in a space of discipline? Or is the whisper in your ear, you're not good enough, or you're not dedicated enough, you're not showing up enough, you didn't get up early enough, you didn't spend enough time doing this, you didn't spend enough time doing that, you're too distracted? When you are trying, at least in my experience, when you are trying to become more disciplined, all of the things that may be preventing you or creating challenges or creating roadblocks or difficulties in maintaining and sustaining discipline, that plays on in a loop. So what if switching to devotion shifts that inner dialogue and creates this space of positive feedback? Because remember, we're defining devotion as a pursuit of pleasure in the thing that you do. So if the energy of devotion in this pursuit of pleasure is finding joy in the thing that you do, then the inner dialogue sounds more like, oh, this feels great. I'm enjoying this. I love when this happens. I love when I discover this. I love when I connect the dots. That's a reinforced conversation that's happening in your mind. And the more that reinforced conversation happens in your mind, the more you feel drawn to wanting to do the thing that makes you feel good. It may even be challenging to take yourself off of it because you're enjoying so much of it. So, of course, this is where you have to create boundaries for yourself. But how wonderful is it to have to create a boundary to encourage yourself or remind yourself to eat, to rest, to take a quick break from the thing that you love to do, as opposed to always trying to find a way to push yourself further, trying to do the thing that you're supposed to do. Because when we operate in that space, we take away the fun, we lose the fun. It's no longer fun when we add the rigidness of discipline. Now it feels forced. So, thinking about creating this space of a positive feedback loop, how sensual engagement increases the oxytocin, enhances your own performance, how your body remembers these pleasurable experiences and naturally seeks to repeat them. In that regard, now your body learns how to associate progress with pleasure rather than struggle. How many of us associate discipline with struggle because we're constantly pushing and suppressing ourselves and our body and our mind and our spirit to do the thing that we need to do because we have to be disciplined. We have to take this structured, almost tunnel vision path forward to get to our goal. And that can be a struggle for us, particularly if you're neurodivergent, have a chronic illness, suffer from whatever type of ailment, have disabilities. Discipline then becomes inaccessible to you in various different ways. But the shift from discipline to devotion in this pursuit of pleasure, having this sensual engagement that enhances your performance, creating these pleasurable experiences that your body remembers and naturally seeks to repeat them. Now, progress becomes pleasurable. And that's what your body knows. That's the muscle memory that your body knows. So progress is fun. Progress is enjoyable. Progress is uplifting. Progress feels abundant. What are some ways that we can begin to transition from the space of discipline to a space of more devotion? Being a devotee either to ourselves or to the thing that we enjoy to do. One of the ways is to ritualize whatever it is that we're trying to be devoted to. Creating ritual around ourselves, our creative practice, that helps us create sacredness and a dedicated space for us to place that energy into that time of devotion. For those of us who grew up in the Abrahamic faith, particularly if you are part of the Black church, and when you walk into the sanctuary and you get there, devotion starts at 10 a.m. And that's really kind of like priming the audience for the praise and worship that you're going to get from the choir and then later the sermon. But that devotion time, that's the time that's dedicated to praising the Lord, being in fellowship and community. We are carving out time to put energy into this space. We can do that a myriad different ways. Very surface things that you can do is have certain sensory notes, could be smell, certain playlists that you listen to. Maybe there's certain slippers that you put on when you're painting or you're writing. Everyone talks about Beyonce having her dedicated hoodie. Maybe it's a dedicated hoodie that you utilize that tells your body that you are getting ready to do the ritual, the practice, incorporating certain textures and sounds and visuals, things why we have uh, mood boards and vision boards. All of those things can help to awaken your senses as you are developing a daily practice of devotion. Ensure that you have an environment that delights and opens at least three of your senses simultaneously. Trust your body. Notice when it naturally leans towards certain aspects of your practice. And when it does, allow yourself to linger there. That's where pleasure is found. We're taught to rush through things. I want to say, I can't remember who posted this on Threads, but slowing down, they said, is a radical practice. It's a form of decolonization because we are taught through capitalism to rush. And the art of devotion to your practice in the pursuit of pleasure, creating this sensual engagement, creating these pleasurable moments that allows your body to remember them, and then associating progress with pleasure. When you sit where pleasure begins to linger in your body, you then shift the thought that you have to rush through that to get to the next phase or to the next step. You tell your body that you don't have to rush through that you can sit and enjoy this pleasurable moment because it's part of the practice of your body remembering what this pleasurable moment feels like and adding it to the bank of muscle memory that's embedded within your body. Creating these delicious and juicy moments and asking yourself, how can it become more delicious, feel more juicy? And allowing the exploration to continue from there. I feel like devotion provides us with a landscape that allows us to ask these questions. Let's say part of my craft, well, technically it is, part of my creative practice and my craft is writing. And as I am creating a practice of devotion, I start to really dig into language and lexicon. Maybe I'm even telling stories, building characters, building worlds. And I'm feeling good because things are clicking, it's flowing, the words are coming to me, the characters are shaping. I'm seeing parts of the end, I'm seeing the journey. And then I can ask myself, man, this feels good. This feels delicious. How can I make this more juicy? We can continue on by beginning our ritual activities with a sensory cue that signals pleasure. Maybe it's a tea that we make. Maybe it's an essential oil we put on our hands if we're doing some type of root work or we're doing some type of spiritual work. We're even painting or creating and we're utilizing some conditioning oils to activate that creative space within us. Or again, you have your favorite playlist that you listen to. Maybe you engage in physical movement that awakens the body before you start. Maybe you have a movement practice that you utilize. You stretch a little bit, you move your body from side to side, you wind your waist to open that sacral area, and it activates the ritual that you utilize in devotion to your craft, to yourself. And maybe you end those sessions with some type of sensual appreciation. You have a moment of reflection, you journal, you voice note what you experience, and you save that as your notes so that you can come back to it in those moments where you feel like you're distant from your practice or you're not as dedicated as you should be. And you have to recommit yourself to the devotion that you've created for yourself. Maybe you even cultivate community around this space of devotion. Connect with others who approach their passions with the same joy and sensuality that you are creating for yourself. Maybe you share sensory experiences that enhance your practice and you compare notes. Maybe you create accountability system based on pleasure metrics, not just ones for productivity. And you define what those pleasure metrics look like. Maybe it focuses on how pleasure feels within your body. Maybe it goes on a Likert scale, on a scale of 1 to 10. When you felt this feeling in your chest, when you felt it in your back, when you felt it in your mons, when you felt it in your arms, when you felt it in your throat, when you got a tinkle in your head, 1 for not as strong and 10 as the strongest. And you use that metric as a way to constantly compare and create spaces of accountability for yourself, to be able to track how your space of devotion is working for you and where you may need to pivot. Maybe you structure your rituals around what feels most enticing and not just efficient. And maybe you create multiple pathways to engage based on these different sensory preferences that you enjoy. And you allow that experience to guide your refinements to your approach. You use that to shape as you move along. You don't make it so rigid as discipline where it has to be just this thing. Your practice of devotion to your craft or to yourself becomes this expansive space where you're constantly learning, you're constantly growing, you're constantly evolving. It's never ending because as a devotee to yourself or to your craft, that devotion doesn't have an expiration date. And of course, we always want to celebrate when we're in practice with ourselves. Maybe you see your goal as a lover you're building a relationship with, and you get to know your goals and what you genuinely want. You peel back those layers and get more in depth with it over time. Maybe you just embrace the natural ebbs and flows of your passion and its intensity. If you identify as someone with a vulva, maybe you start looking at your menstrual phase. Maybe this is how you connect your devotional practice to following your menstrual cycle. You use that as an additional framework for yourself as you are building your practice of devotion or your devotional practice. And then again, you create another metric of success by the depth of pleasure in this process. And then, of course, lastly, you practice self compassion. You start to shift from the harsh, negative self talk and replace it with more gentle language. You apply kindness to yourself, grace to yourself when you feel frustrated. Maybe you have some touch signals that you give yourself. Maybe it's a hand on the heart, a gentle massage in the places where you're feeling tense. And ask yourself, what would feel nourishing right now when you're hitting those challenges, those spaces of difficulties, and you're starting to feel a little hard on yourself. And you do that to remind yourself that this is a relationship that you're building. This isn't a one-way street. It's not a means to an end. It's an embodiment. It's you becoming one with yourself and your craft, your practice, and allowing that to be a way for you to connect with the world outside of you. This internal practice and devotion that you're creating then becomes an outward practice that expands across every aspect of your life. And the devotion isn't just to yourself, but to others in relationship to pleasure, to nature in relationship to pleasure. And all of that influences how you deepen the relationship with yourself and with your craft. This is feeling good. Seeing devotion centered in pleasure goes beyond achievement and leads us to fulfillment. 2 years ago, I started trying to incorporate my thoughts on pleasure scholarship in more mainstream settings, aka LinkedIn. But I wanted to talk about pleasure as a practice, but pleasure also as a framework, as a personal framework for ourselves that leads to self actualization. And it brought me to fulfillment. Because often when we talk about pleasure, people automatically associate pleasure with sex. But pleasure is really just a thing that pleases you. And maybe it is sex that pleases you, but so does ice cream. So does the summer breeze. So does the sun on your skin. Those things are pleasing to most of us. The briny taste of oysters with a little cocktail sauce and some horseradish. That's pleasing. So pleasure isn't just putting it back and busting it open. Pleasure is the thing that pleases us. But because a lot of people don't automatically think that way, you kind of have to guide them there. I shifted in that space towards fulfillment. So thinking of devotion going past the space of achievement and leading us toward fulfillment, feeling fulfilled, reaching the top of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is the space of self actualization. And when we are able to self actualize, we then move towards fulfillment. Thinking about how the most sustainable path to growth isn't through force, but it is through pleasure. When we force ourselves to follow one rule or follow rules that other people have and try to use their blueprint that's worked for them, and we try to apply that to ourselves, we open ourselves up to disappointment. And we can't do that. Not if we desire not just to have ease, but really a heartiness of life that makes us feel accomplished, that makes us feel, as Ebony Janice would say, in the seat of ourselves, where we can kind of just lean back into that feeling and know that we are assured within ourselves. Honoring that sensual nature gives us access to deeper resources for transformation. When we lean into our sensuality, it unlocks a space of intellectual pursuits that we didn't know were available to us. How do we transition from punishment to pleasure through this embodied awareness of devotion? Remember, pursuit to pleasure leading to sensual engagements that creates new memories within the body, that allows the body to then associate progress with pleasure and not struggle. That sounds like a wonderful path. It's one I'm definitely going to talk about more as I begin to apply all of this to myself. And I want to document my findings. I want to be able to share that because for those of us where discipline feels unattainable, we have an alternative, and it's called devotion. Yeah, this feels good. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab podcast. Until we meet again. Thank you for tapping into the Muses Lab. I hope you enjoyed this week's adventure. Be sure to like this episode, subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, and share the wealth with others. Sign up for my newsletter and join the TML community at www.themuseslab.com. Receive weekly musings, early access, and exclusive drops, as well as discounts on products and services. Thank you once again for tapping in, and Until next time.